Police clashed with pro-Palestinian protesters in Amsterdam amid 7 October commemorations.
1 year on from the October 7th attack, Israelis mark the solemn occasion with vigils and rallies. Russian missiles hit multiple Ukrainian regions, killing 4 and wounding dozens.
Nobel Prize in Medicine honors 2 Americans for discovery of microRNA, a fundamental principle governing how gene activity is regulated.
Police clashed with protesters in Amsterdam as they took to the streets in support of the Palestinians amid the anniversary of Israel's now year-long military campaign in Gaza. The clashes happened as the protesters approached an Israeli manifestation commemorating the 7 October Hamas attacks. Amsterdam's mayor called for an end to the pro-Palestinian protest. Numerous cities across Europe also held commemorative events on Monday to remember over 1,200 Israelis that were killed last year on 7 October and those taken hostage by Hamas. In Berlin, a memorial was held at the Chabad synagogue where some of the attack survivors mourned loved ones who were killed, while also calling for continued efforts to release the remaining hostages.
The terror in Israel is still happening. The hostages are still in the tunnels after 1 year. I'm begging for you, keep fighting for those people.
Jewish communities also came together in Italy and Spain. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni spoke at Rome's main synagogue, commemorating the attack by reaffirming Israel's right to defend itself. In France, the streets of Paris held displays of the faces of Hamas hostages on posters stuck up during the night by activists. 94 of a total of 251 hostages are still being held captive in Gaza.
Prime Minister of Israel Benjamin Netanyahu visited a monument in Jerusalem commemorating the victims and fallen soldiers of Hamas's October the 7th attack. It comes as Israelis across the country mark a year since the brutal attack that kicked off the Israel-Hamas war.
ביום הזה, במקום הזה, ובמקומות רבים בארצנו, אנחנו זוכרים את נופלינו, את חטופינו, שאנו מחויבים להחזירם, את גיבורינו שנפלו למען הגנת המולדת והארץ. עברנו טבח נורא לפני שנה, ואנו קמנו כעם, כאריות.
Earlier in the day, over 350 people attended the site of the Nova Music Festival in southern Israel. They listened to the last song that rung out before hundreds of friends and family members were gunned down or taken hostage by Hamas. In Jerusalem, hundreds protested through the streets before rallying outside Netanyahu's home to mark the solemn anniversary.
אני רוצה להבטיח לכל 101 חטופים בשם כולנו, כל עם ישראל, שלא נפסיק להילחם, לא נפסיק להשמיע את הקול שלהם, לא נפסיק להתעקש על הדבר הערכי והמוסרי והבסיסי ביותר, שהם יחזרו הביתה בשלום כמה שיותר מהר.
Hundreds of protesters then stood in silence, listening to a siren that played throughout the streets, marking another somber date in Israeli history, Holocaust Remembrance and Memorial Day.
One year after the October 7 attack, which resulted in 1,200 people killed and 251 taken hostage, Israel's army chief has said that it has defeated the military wing of Hamas and continue to combat its terrorist capabilities. However, this claim about the Palestinian movement is not shared by analysts Euronews spoke to.
So if, say, for example, we think it's lost 6,000 fighters, it also seems to be recruiting, or I should say, mobilizing about 6,000 members of its reserves, who are certainly not as well trained as the initial batch, but probably still able to hold a gun and fire rocket launchers at Israeli tanks. I think we can safely say that Hamas has been working to restore some of its damaged tunnels.
A recent major blow to Hamas was the assassination of exiled political leader Ismail Haniyeh on July 31st while he was visiting Iran. Hamas then chose Yahya Sinwar, who masterminded the October 7 attacks, as his successor.
Decisions are taken by consensus in the Shura Council. Of course, Yahya Sinwar would have a strong voice because of what happened on October 7th and the way he is regarded within Hamas and maybe outside Hamas as a strong leader. And because he has Israeli hostages, that gives him a strong card.
Sinwar is seen as a hardliner. The US and the EU consider Hamas a terrorist group, but the movement remains crucial to negotiating a ceasefire. Some Western countries could play a bigger mediating role, our analyst suggests.
Countries like Norway, Switzerland can have talks with Hamas because they do not give them the political label of a terrorist organization. It's a political decision. And so the absence of channels, direct channels, is a problem because Hamas is, of course, a movement that fights the military occupation with violence.
For a political solution of the conflict, the Palestinian Authority remains the main interlocutor. But even if Hamas is unlikely to govern Gaza, as it has done since 2007, analysts suggest it will still need to be included somehow.
Let's be clear, Hamas is going nowhere, even having suffered as it has. It will always be able to, at the very least, oppose any outside intervention in Gaza, whether that is an Israeli intervention, as it is doing at the moment, or whether that is the intervention of the Palestinian Authority in the future, or an international force.
According to sources close to him, new Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar has no regrets over the October 7 attacks and wants to create a Palestinian state by armed struggle.
Firefighters are attempting to control a large blaze currently engulfing an oil depot in Russian-occupied Crimea, Kyiv officials stated. Ukrainian armed forces confirmed it launched missiles on the region's largest oil depot to strategically hit fuel used by Moscow. Measures to undermine the military and economic potential of the Russian Federation continue, it said in a statement. Meanwhile, Russian missiles hit multiple Ukrainian regions, killing 4 and wounding dozens. The Ukrainian Air Force posted on social media platform Telegram that Russia fired ballistic and guided air missiles upon several areas, including the Sumy, Kharkiv and Kyiv regions on Monday. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky acknowledged the attacks on X, stating air defences destroyed more than 50 Russian-launched Shahed drones fired upon a dozen targets.
The Nobel Prize in Medicine is awarded to 2 Americans, Victor Ambros and Gary Ruvkun, for their discovery of microRNA, a fundamental principle governing how gene activity is regulated. Thomas Perlman, Secretary of the Nobel Assembly, announced the award on Monday in Stockholm. According to the Assembly, their discovery is fundamentally important for how organisms develop and function. MicroRNA is a small molecule found in cells that helps regulate gene expression. It binds to messenger RNA to either block its translation into proteins or cause its breakdown, controlling which proteins are made in the cell. The rest of the 2024 prizes will be awarded throughout the week. The Nobel Prizes were created by Swedish inventor Alfred Nobel, who died in 1896, and it comes with a cash award of nearly €1 million. The laureates will receive their awards at a ceremony on December 10, the anniversary of Nobel's death.
Denmark has long been recognised as a pioneer in the use of digital tools in education, but it's now shifting away from this approach. A growing number of schools are implementing a mobile-free school policy, under which students are required to hand in their phones during the school day.
At this school in Denmark, pupils are required to leave their phones in a safe during the school day. This pilot program, which started in 2023, has gained support from both parents and teachers and is now a permanent practice.
Teachers at the school proposed a ban after witnessing how unrestricted mobile phone use harms students' concentration.
But a lot of pupils, they actually lost interest in learning, and so we had to do something about it. But a lot of the pupils felt that we took something away from them. And of course, we take their phones, but we also help them in the long run. And that's our responsibility as grown-ups and adults, to take responsibility. It's our future, you know.
In February, Denmark's Education Ministry announced new recommendations on digital device use at school.
If you look at in totality the different scientific approaches to studying concentration, memory, well-being, sleep, relationships, the value of the physical play and all that, then it's very clear that it points to putting a limit on the mobile phone usage, not forbidding them totally, but limiting, and in order to stimulate different kinds of activities.
When the ban was first implemented, teachers experienced strong resistance from students.
Felt like they were just like kind of unnecessary.
But some students say they have noticed changes in their peers' behaviour.
I mean, I definitely felt like I used my phone a lot more in school than I should have. But after the change, it helped a lot. And also like other people who used it a lot, it helped like just like talking with your friends more and like doing stuff outside of school too and not just looking at your phone.
In 2012, many municipalities purchased iPads for schools using government subsidies. But the reversal in Denmark's approach to technology and education reflects concerns about its impact on students' well-being.